What's up, Broncos country? This is Joseph Russ from the Broncos Insider, and in today's video I will be grading the Broncos at each defensive position. Now before I get into the video, I just want to let you guys know about this huge project that I'm a part of called Fan to Fan Network. It's going to be a website in which the biggest influencers from each NFL team each have a platform on this website to be able to push out content relating to their team. I, of course, will be a part of it, and I will be covering the Broncos. I will be able to put all my YouTube videos, my Instagram posts, my tweets, and articles, and all of this stuff on this website in one place for everyone to find. In addition to this, we will be streaming on Twitch live sports shows, so make sure you guys follow the Fan to Fan Network Twitch, in which I will link below in the description. Now here's a little sneak peek for Fan to Fan Network. So the first position I will be grading for the Broncos on the defensive side of the ball is the outside linebacker position. As you can see, I've given this position an A+ overall. This is probably the strongest position for the Broncos on their entire team. Headlined by former Super Bowl MVP Von Miller and star pass rusher Bradley Chubb, who was drafted number 5 overall a few years back, they have one of the most dynamic pass rushing duos in the entire NFL. Not to mention, they were covered very well depth-wise with two very solid pieces in Jeremiah Attaochu and Malik Reed. This is a duo in Von Miller and Bradley Chubb that really has the potential to be able to break 40 combined sacks. Realistically, I can very easily see them getting 35. However, 40 is really not that outrageous when you look at the talent of these two players. Yes, Von Miller did have a down year last year, but he spent that entire offseason prepping to be able to be side by side with Bradley Chubb. So once he got into that season and Bradley Chubb tore his ACL right at the beginning there, everything kind of went to crap. So I'm looking for 30 to 35 sacks between these Broncos pass rushing duo and Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. And that is why I've given the outside linebacker position an A+, as it is just a phenomenal group. Next up, we have the defensive line, in which I have given a grade of an A. Headlined by the three guys up in the front, Shelby Harris, Jurell Casey, and Mike Purcell, I could not be more excited to see what they will be able to do with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller on the outside. Jurell Casey, who the Broncos traded for this offseason for just a 7th round pick, has had 5 or more sacks in each of the last 7 seasons and has made the Pro Bowl each of the last 5 seasons. He's been a wrecking ball for the Tennessee Titans defense ever since he came into the NFL 9 years ago, and I believe he will excel in Vic Fangio's defense. With Shelby Harris, the Broncos were able to bring him back on a very team-friendly 1-year prove-it deal. I believe over the last 2 years, he has been one of the most or the most underrated interior defensive linemen in the entire NFL. He is a guy that gets to the quarterback, he bats the passes, and truly does everything. He's a guy that came out of nowhere for the Broncos a couple seasons back and went into the offseason looking to get big money, but his market did not meet his expectations. However, because of this, he will be very hungry this season. He will be fighting for that next big contract, and he will be hungry, very hungry, to be able to just go out there and give it all he can and just destroy offenses and just win games for the Denver Broncos. With Mike Purcell, we're getting a very good run stopper right in the middle at the nose tackle position. Mike Purcell is a guy who 2 years ago was playing for the Salt Lake Stallions in the AAF, which is now extinct. The Broncos picked him up, and in the middle of the season last year, they benched Adam Gotsis, started Mike Purcell, and major differences came in. The Broncos went from a middle-of-the-pack rushing defense to immediately a top 5 rushing defense as soon as Mike Purcell took a step on that field as a starter. I am very, very excited to see what Mike Purcell does in his first full season as a starter for the Broncos. So with this combined starting group on the inside of things with Jurell Casey, Shelby Harris, and Mike Purcell, like I said, I'm very excited and I think they will do great things. The Broncos also have two really good depth pieces on this defensive line in DeMarcus Walker and Draymond Jones. Both of these guys came in at the end of last year and had very good end of the seasons when Derek Wolfe got hurt. These are guys that I expect to be able to come in and give our interior defensive linemen a fresh breath of air and maybe even fight for more playing time, as I really do think that they have the potential to be every down starters in the NFL. At the inside linebacker position, I have given them a positional grade of a B. This is a positional group that probably is the weakest link on the entire defense. However, it's still right at or even above the league average. The two guys headlining this position are Todd Davis, who's a veteran starter from the Super Bowl 50 roster, and also Alexander Johnson. Alexander Johnson is a guy who bursted onto the scene for the Broncos around week 5 and really never looked back. At one point, he was Pro Football Focus's highest graded defender for a certain stretch of games. He's a guy that I really do think that has superstar potential in this league and someone I definitely want to see more of in 2020. Just the other day, we heard Broncos defensive coordinator Ed Donatel talking about how they are designing plays for Alexander Johnson. I really like this as it shows that Ed Donatel is able to see the talent in Alexander Johnson as well and is trying to maximize his potential in this league. However, depth-wise, it gets a little shaky. We have some very good special teamers in Josie Jewell and Josh Jones, but none of those guys have really played that well once they've gotten onto the football field. This year, the Broncos drafted linebacker Justin Sternad from Wake Forest, and he is a guy that I'm hoping can step up into a very nice backup role behind Alexander Johnson and Todd Davis. He's very athletic and can cover tight ends, which is a linebacker and which fits the Vic Fangio scheme perfectly, and also something that the Broncos have desperately needed for the past few years, as Todd Davis just really can't cut it athletic-wise anymore. The cornerback position, I have given a grade of a B. But it isn't because of the talent that's there, but rather because of the risk in the injury. We can't trust that Bryce Callahan will be back onto this field in 2020 as of now. Although Ed Donatel said he will be ready to go for training camp, I'm not going to believe it until I see it. We heard so much in 2019 about Bryce Callahan being able to come back in week 4, week 5, and then week 10, week 11, and it never happened. He suffered a foot injury in training camp in 2019 and was never able to step onto the football field for the Broncos the entire season. Ed Donatel says he's ready to go, and I'm really hoping he really is, because when Callahan played for Vic Fangio and the Bears, he was a great cornerback. He's a guy that will be able to complement A.J. Bouye perfectly, knows the system very well, and should be a very good veteran presence for this cornerback locker room. If he can get back onto the field and play like he was on the Bears, this grade is probably a B+ or even an A-. That's how good he was, but that's also how much he's bringing down this grade by not being able to be on the football field. In addition, though, like I said, the Broncos have A.J. Bouye, in which they traded for from the Jacksonville Jaguars this offseason after Chris Harris Jr. left to, well, I guess he didn't leave yet, but he had pretty much announced that he was going to leave in free agency, which he ultimately did and went to the Los Angeles Chargers. A.J. Bouye really does fit Vic Fangio's scheme perfectly as well, as he excels in zone defense, which is primarily what Fangio runs. He has his struggles in man-to-man coverage, but with the defense in which the Broncos will be running under Fangio, I think that those struggles will definitely be masked. In addition, the Broncos they drafted Michael Ojemudia from Iowa during the 2020 NFL Draft. He's a guy in which the coaches have been very big fans of. He was a very questionable pick at first. Many of the NFL analysts disagreed with this pick, saying that there were better cornerbacks who are more talented, smarter on the board, but the Broncos organization clearly doesn't think so. I'm very excited to be able to see what Michael Ojemudia will be able to do for the Broncos in 2020 season, and I'm really hoping he will be able to step in to that cornerback 3 role just nicely, and maybe even be a very good cornerback 2 if Bryce Callahan isn't able to play. And then we have Devontae Bosby. Devontae Bosby got hurt with a scary neck injury for the Broncos in early 2019. Many people don't really know his name. However, when you look at Devontae Bosby, he was playing so well for the Broncos before he got hurt. I'm very excited to be able to see what he will be able to do as a healthy player, as the Broncos brought him back this offseason on a 1-year deal. I believe in his talent, and it looks like the Broncos do as well. I can't wait to see what we get out of Bosby this season. But as of now, I'm giving this position the grade of a B, but it will only be able to go up. I don't see this grade going down, as the talent there is present. Like, we have very talented players in that room. They just have to show up, play, and not get hurt. To wrap things up, we have the safety position, in which I have awarded an A+. I know I said earlier in the video that Bradley Chubb and Von Miller and the outside linebacker position is probably the best positional group on the entire Broncos team. However, with Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons over their safety, they are really knocking at that door to take that title from them. Kareem Jackson is a great veteran who came in and played excellent for the Broncos in his first year on the Broncos last season, and Justin Simmons has been one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL for the last couple of years. Meanwhile, being extremely undervalued and underrated by fans outside, and analysts, by the way, outside of the Broncos fan base. Now, I know the Broncos struggle a little bit with depth-wise at the safety position, especially after losing Will Parks this offseason. However, I think that Trey Marshall Sr. will be able to slide into Parks' nickel spot and do just fine for the Broncos. Trey Marshall Sr. played 2 games as a starter at the end of 2019 in Week 16 and Week 17 in Kareem Jackson's place and did just fine. I think going into his 3rd year, Trey Marshall Sr. has started to show enough that he deserves a legitimate chance, and I think he will be able to do good there. And then we have Douglas Coleman III. He's a guy that went undrafted during this NFL draft, and the Broncos picked up in the undrafted free agent market. The Broncos have a history of snagging these undrafted gems after the draft is over, and I think that Douglas Coleman III might be their next one. He's a true ball hawk from Texas Tech, and I think that if he can sneak onto this roster in 2020, he might be able to fight for some legitimate play time this season. Now that wraps things up for this video, but don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to my channel, and go check out that Fan to Fan Network Twitch and follow it, as I will have it linked down in the description. Thank you for watching.